And without further ado, Sharitta, welcome and thank you for doing this fireside chat with us.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you all for having me. My name is Sharitta Marshall. I am founder of Visionary Development Consulting, where I specialize in helping organizations to create psychologically safe workplaces through their employee resource groups. So, essentially, what I do is that I go in and help organizations to create programs around their ERGs that connect to the overall business. Key performance indicators or their OKRs or business outcomes, really showing them how to leverage their employee resource groups as a way to positively impact not only the organization's bottom line, but also employee engagement, retention, and recruitment. So, what I have found in doing this is that my why has been because I have been either one or one of very few people that look like me within either a team, a department, or an entire organization, and how that is very stressful because there is no support, and anytime there are any microaggressions, or what I like to call them macroaggressions, because they're not micro after a certain amount of time. You begin to burn out from trying to constantly feel like you have to prove one, that you belong where you are and that you're capable of moving forward within an organization. So for me, when I founded and also led employee resource groups, I wanted to make sure that I created spaces that were not only safe spaces for those employees, but also help to make sure that they had a career path within the organization or even outside of the organization. So I created processes, programs, and procedures to really take those individuals to the next level, because that was very important to me, because I didn't want people to continue to remain stifled or feel like they hit a ceiling because of either them being a minority or someone underrepresented within the organization. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yay, welcome. We're so excited to have you. So, what are some of the things that maybe people that are those kind of like starting microaggressions that may be happening to them, but they're maybe not aware that they can do something, or that's an issue, or that's gonna maybe lead to more issues.
So definitely understanding that you're not crazy, you're not making it up in your head, is not something that you are being overly dramatic or sensitive about. And then start to document it. And when I say document, I mean document what it was, who did it, and the date. And then after that, definitely if the individual was either someone you work with or your direct manager, have a conversation with them about that and say like, hey, um, on this date, or hey, during that meeting you said this, and it was very either condescending or it was something that made me feel this kind of way, and I just want to let you know. um, they may or may not be open to that feedback. That's not really your responsibility, but it is your responsibility to at least start to have the conversation. So how they react to it is not something you can take ownership of. You just conduct yourself in a way that you would like to treat them. So if this is someone that you work with on a regular basis, or your direct manager, of course, going in professionally and with a tone of, hey, I just wanted to bring this to your awareness, because they might not be aware of something that they have done. They might not have been aware that they created a microaggression against you, and you're just sharing with them, hey, this happened. This is what the effect was. And especially if they go in with, that wasn't my intention, it's never their intention, but it's not about intention, it's about impact. So you can say like, hey, I know that wasn't your intention, but this is how it impacted me, and let's move forward from this situation. And that's all you can do. But if this continues to go on, continue to document it. If you feel comfortable to have another conversation, then do so. If you don't, continue to document. And then if you feel comfortable enough to talk to either someone else in your department, or maybe someone who is higher up, maybe in another department, to get feedback on how to handle the situation. If it progresses, then feel free to do that. But if you don't have any type of support system within the organization, then continue to document it and then go to HR. And at that point, you can, say a formal complaint. And when you go to HR with a formal complaint, please understand that for the most part, and I give this a caveat, for the most part, HR is not there for you. HR is there for the organization. So do not expect
Yep.
anything, but you are doing it for a documentation purpose, not for them to have your back, because that's not what they're there for. They're there for the organization and not for you. But again, you want to document because things can go in one of many directions, and you want to make sure that you have your T's crossed and your I's dotted.
That's awesome. So, what are some kind of like red flags or things as they're doing interviewing? And obviously, they're working remotely, but this happens remote. It doesn't matter if you're in an office or you're working remote. Has that been your experience as well?
Either way, remote or in person, people are going to people no matter if it's electronically or if it's in person. So it's not
I-
really
Is
not
there
really a difference.
is there any like ways that they can kind of like, I don't know, check on Glassdoor or any kind of like red flags that they can see as they're searching for companies to, especially like if they're looking at maybe some of the bigger enterprise companies, um that maybe this is not the place they want to be, or that this is not an ideal environment, like, yeah.
So a couple of things outside of looking on like Glassdoor, on LinkedIn, look for employees within the organization that you're looking to connect with, and connect with those employees and ask them about their experience working there. That will give you the most honest answer. And I'm not saying, and I would definitely say, don't go to like a HR representative. Go for somebody who's either working in an area that you're looking to work in, or someone that might be either part of an employee resource group, an individual contributor, to say, hey, I'm interested in interviewing, or I'm in the interview process. Can you give me a fair assessment of, how it is to work at said organization as said employee? 9 times out of 10, people will give you the honest feedback and let you know what's what. And because I've done that for organizations, I've had people reach out to me, say, hey, I just want to get a lay of the land. What do you think? And I've told people, like, hey, don't come here. You don't want to. Don't do it. Um, I don't know if everybody's going to be as honest as me, but that is one way to do it. And then another way is when you're interviewing, particularly if you're interviewing with your either direct manager or someone you're going to be working with, ask them this question: the last time you made a mistake, how did you handle and address it? If they can't give you an answer, or have to like, well, because anytime there is a pause with that, or they're not giving you a straightforward answer, then they're not somebody who takes accountability. Or if they say, I don't really make mistakes, they're just learning things. Like, no, everybody makes mistakes. So the question is not really trying to make them say, hey, I've made a mistake. The question is really to get to them to show you that they are accountable for their actions, good or bad. So it should be easy for someone you work with, and especially your manager, to be able to say, hey, yeah, this time I made a mistake. I owned up to it. We were able to fix the situation, or we weren't able to fix the situation, but did take ownership of this mistake I made. You want to work for people that are in integrity and are accountable for their actions.
Really good point. So Esther asked, how can people get educated that HR is not for them? It's a shock, and I don't know if like what she said surprises you guys. It's the same thing I kind of tell you when you go into an interview and you're interviewing with a recruiter. They're part of HR. They're not your friend, and you can't open up and tell them absolutely everything, right? Like, they're going to, whatever you tell a recruiter in an interview, they're going to tell their boss, which is the company, or their person they report to. Like, so yeah, you have to understand that. So what do you recommend, Sharita, to kind of to help them understand some of these roles that they think, oh yeah, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to make sure you're comfortable with the company, and
I mean, essentially, that's not human resources role has never been to make people comfortable with the company. It's been to get people into the company and then tell them once they're into the company what they're supposed to do, rules and regulations. Um, there's nowhere that you can learn this outside of direct experience, which unfortunately it is what it is. That's how I've learned that HR is not your friend, from bad HR experiences, from being honest with them and then them using the information that I provided against me. Um, just know that, there are different levels of HR, because there's recruiting, there's benefits and compensation, there's employee relations, there are different titles. So your interaction with HR will depend on exactly what it is that their role and responsibilities are. For benefits, that's someone that you're not going to go to with an issue with like your manager or your coworker. That's just something about either your medical benefits, understanding your compensation when you get paid, if there's an issue with payroll or something like that. So those are not going to be the people you're going to have the conversations with. Recruiters, again, same thing. They're just there to get you into the company. After that, you never really speak to or hear from them ever again unless they're asking you to recruit for them. People ops, those are the individuals that are going to be the ones that you're going to talk about, either about your career, any issues you have, things like that. But again, they are there to protect the organization, not you. So be very careful and intentional on the words you use and the information you share. So that's why I said in the beginning, when you are experiencing something that is not the best environment, make sure you start documenting it, because they're going to ask you what happened, who was involved, what was the outcome, how did you address it, there, because they're going to come from the expectation that you have done something about this situation on your own, and then that has left you no recourse but to come to them because there's been no change.
So, I've had my own experience in dealing with HR and an issue and everything. So, um when you go to report that, and it's, if you're at the point where you're going to HR, you're going to do, you're going to report that this has gone on, this is what I've tried to do, and then you just get like this, you know kind of a little bit of pushback, like, are you sure you want to report this, or those types of things. So then what do you do, like, if you feel like you're completely unsupported, so now you can't talk to your manager because that's where it's coming from, and then you're not really feeling secure with HR, like, then what do what's left?
I would say it depends on the severity of the situation. If it's becoming really toxic for you and it's not a place that you really feel mentally safe or even physically safe, then definitely start creating your exit strategy. Start looking for other opportunities. If you can take some time off, then take some time off. If it's really bad and you feel like there's some type of discrimination or retaliation, then file a complaint with the EEOC. That's what they're there for. It takes months and months to get through. So even if you feel at that point that you're not really getting supported, and you start to file an inquiry for them to look into it, it could take a couple of months. So you can always start there. That's a recourse that you have. Um, but definitely protect yourself at all costs, because you can be replaced at any point in time from an organization standpoint, but from your life, you can't be replaced. So prioritize yourself in the situation and do what you need to do to protect yourself mentally, physically, and financially.
And so Levi was asking, who pays HR?
The organization pays HR, so that's who they're loyal to, not to you.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I wasn't asking. I was just kind of
Yeah.
commenting. Like,
Yeah,
you got to
no.
remember who pays HR. Yeah.
Exactly. Exact. And I think we forget that because people talk to you. Oh, it's been my experience. It's always been like, oh, the door is open, right? We have an open door policy. You can talk about, you can come talk to us if you have any issues or all. Like, I think that's kind of the part of the rhetoric. And I don't know, Sharita, if that's been your experience. It's been mine. Like, it's kind of like the line they use to get you in the door and get you employed, right? Get you working there. Now you're working there, and it's a different story in some cases. Not always. It's not all bad, you guys. And that's why Sharita's doing what she's doing to help create more safe environments in companies, across the globe, really, um, because there are great companies that really take care of their employees and do what they say they're going to do. So it's just these companies that where you're not safe. So yeah.
Yeah.
So Esther said, is there a controlling executive party of a company that would support such diversity groups and are open to listen and take action to mitigate issues?
So from the standpoint of individual issues, I would say no. But the way that I have helped organizations to set up their ERG program, one of the things I do talk about is having an advisory board. And that advisory board is pretty much the liaison between the ERG program and senior leadership. So they are the advocates for the program. So if there are issues that have come up where groups are saying, hey, we don't feel supported in progressing in our career, we don't have mentors, we don't have sponsors, we're not seeing people that look like us in leadership, and we've been trying unsuccessfully to have those promotions, but we've been relegated to like manager, and we haven't been able to get beyond the manager to like director or VP level type positions. Then the advisory board can advocate for them to say, hey, we have this vast network internally of really great candidates that we should be supporting and sponsoring throughout their career to get them into leadership roles so we can have a diverse leadership. Or if, let's just say, there is an accessibility group that is saying like, hey, we don't have accessibility, or we're having accessibility issues with the website. We can't get to X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z. And we really feel like that would be something that would be beneficial to change as an organization. They brought it up to product. Product is like, well, it's not on the roadmap. We're not being involved with it. An advisory board can go to leadership and say, hey, here's an opportunity for us to increase accessibility for individuals on our website by doing X, Y, and Z. This is something we should prioritize as a support, not only to the community, but also our employees internally. Those are the type of things that an advisory board can be an advocate for. If an organization doesn't have an advocacy board, then the executive sponsors, which should be those director, VP type of level positions, should be advocating for those groups that they support on that same level. So there are different ways to go about it. But when there are group dynamic issues, then I would say if they have an ERG, then the advisory board or the executive sponsor would be the ones to advocate for them. But if it's an individual issue, then 9 times out of 10, there's no place for them to go past HR. It's just HR.
Levi, did you have a question?
I did. Hey, Sharitta, thank you for being here and talking with us. So I have a question, kind of on the, I guess when it comes to the employee, as in us, our responsibility when it comes to situations like this. You know, being someone who has dealt with depression and mental health in the past, and making sure that I have that handled on my end. Where does the responsibility come in, and as far as a reactive responsibility in certain situations where, I guess where's the balance in kind of determining and understanding where on my end, if I'm reacting to a situation, am I doing my part in reacting the way I should react? Is this something that I should bring to something, or am I just reacting poorly to maybe I'm not meeting expectations and they're confronting me and being, blunt and brief about something like that, and it's not necessarily, an attack on me or my character, but how do you balance something like that? Because I come from a blue collar background. This is, I'm in my first remote job. I've had a couple of positions in the past, like in a bank, but before that, it was all, hands on. A lot of pretty rough and gruff characters that I've worked with, and me being Mexican, I've had to deal with my fair share of discriminatory remarks. And when it got to that point, it was, I just felt like it was best for me, where I confronted the person who was saying these things, and that, in that case, it was somebody who was um, above me, who was my boss, and and the situation just kind of got to the point to where I just felt like it was best for me to walk away. And so I did, and it was my choice. I did, I chose to work at that place, and that was the atmosphere that was there. It was wrong, and so for me, I think the best choice was to just walk away from that job, which I did. So some for you who's been in this sort of this space that you're in, and have the experience that you have dealing with this sort of thing, where's the line of my responsibility as an employee? Where's the balance in that? I don't know if I worded that correctly, or how that sounds, but I guess where's the responsibility on me? Where does that line go from, okay, this is something that I definitely need to bring to, whoever I need to bring it to, make a complaint, or no, this is something that that needed to be addressed, and they addressed it, and now it's my responsibility to react correctly.
So that's a nuanced answer, to be honest with you, because it depends and it varies by situation.
Sure.
I am very blunt and straight to the point when I have conversations with individuals, just because that's just how I function. Yet, as a manager, it is my responsibility to understand the best way to communicate to you. And if we're having a one-on-one and I'm like, hey, you've been slacking and I've noticed that you haven't been, doing what you're supposed to do, and this is just unacceptable and you have to bring it up. If you feel like, if you come back and say, hey, I didn't like that, or I said that, my response to you is that, do you have a problem with what I said, or do you have a problem with how I said it? Because there's a difference. And that is my responsibility as a manager, is to be able to delineate from you which it is. Because if it wasn't what I said, it was how I said it, then hey, I need to address you in a different manner. And that's something we can talk about. But if it's not, if it's neither, then that's another issue. So when you said that, stuff that was said was derogatory, then it was derogatory because that was the impact that was made to you from that individual, regardless if they meant it or not. So again, when I said that, don't think that you're crazy or overreacting if the impact to you has been negative and caused you mental duress. That is how you feel, and you have the right to feel how you feel. But again, coming back and saying, as your manager, was it what I said, or was it how I said it, is my responsibility. And it's your responsibility to be honest. If it wasn't what I said, but how I said it, then that's the conversation we need to have. If it's not, if it is what I said and how I said it, then that's still a conversation we need to have. But there is onus on both parties to be able to address the disconnect in the conversation. And if it can't be addressed between you two, then there is a way for you to have, like, HR in the conversation, to be a buffer and a mediator between you two, so you guys can know how to have productive conversations. It doesn't always work out. Sometimes it is just a clashing of personalities that just won't ever get resolved, and one or both need to walk away from the situation. So, but don't think like the onus has to be all on you to figure out the situation. As a manager, that is a manager's responsibility.
Right, but it's just a good rule of thumb, as whatever party in a situation, to kind of ask yourself those questions after a confrontation happens. So, um, if say you were my boss, you came to me and said something similar to the example you gave, it should be on me to if my reaction, if my emotional reaction is something like I didn't really like that, I should be responsible enough to ask the questions. Was it how she said it, or was it what she said? And then based on the answer from those, kind of move forward however I need to move forward.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
as a manager, there should be at least some type of safety for you to feel comfortable to have that conversation with them.
Right.
That is
Yeah. Yeah.
always the case. Like a lot of times you can talk to managers about that because they're just go off. But to be a really good and effective manager, then they should be creating a safe space for you to actually have that conversation with them.
Right. Yeah. And that kind of, that kind of speaks to what you said earlier about, I've helped quite a few people in the interviewing process of, trying to get a new position somewhere. And one of the things I tell them to ask, one of the questions I say is a good thing to ask is, or just to kind of do your own research before an interview is, look, find some people who are no longer there, and then find some people who have succeeded in the role that you're interviewing for, that are still in that position or that are still at that company, and then ask them those questions. If atmosphere and company culture is a big thing for you, then hey, ask them the questions. What's it like? Why did you leave? What did you do to succeed in your role? And how was the atmosphere and the culture while you were doing that? And it's something that I asked when I was interviewing for my position now, and to someone who is no longer at the company, and to someone who is there and is doing well, and it really helped to give me some comfort in continuing with an interview. So I
Mhm.
definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And then you always can ask in the interview process, if especially to a manager or your direct manager that you're having an interview with, like how do you address employees that might have performance issues, or how do you address difficult conversations? That will let you know how they would address you. Because if they give you like a carte blanche answer, then you know that is not nuanced based off of the individual. That's just who they are. You have to take it or leave it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm.
So how do you know when it's time to have a conversation and maybe bring that up? Could we start a group, you know, because there aren't a lot of people that look like me. I can, like how do you know when it like to and who do you go to say could we maybe start, start looking at maybe having this support, or is this support available? Or because I feel like it's kind of like secret. It's not like they say, okay, now we have this support for you, right? Like,
Yeah. So it depends on how large or small the organization is as far as who you would go to. I would definitely say if you are in an organization that doesn't have like employee resource groups or other employee resources, to see if you have a DEI person or team and talk to them about, your concerns or what you're looking to get um, support
and
with
what is
from
that? DEI?
diversity, equity, and inclusion, to see if there's some type of community support that can be done or created. Because I tell small organizations, like if you have like one or two people of color, do not make an employee resource group out of two people like that. That's just one. It puts a whole bunch of weight on them to be the representatives for their entire community, and that's not fair. And then two, it's not going to give them support that they actually need. I definitely tell them to start with community advocacy groups or professional development groups before they get employee resource groups when they're that small, because it just doesn't make one, it doesn't make business sense, and then two, it doesn't make sense from an employee engagement perspective either, because that's just is too much on just like two people. But you want to also make sure that they have the support that they need. So definitely, if you don't have a diversity, equity, inclusion, either person or group, then go to HR and ask them, what employee resources do I have, since it's just me here and I don't really feel supported. Like how can you best support me as this type of employee? And see what they say. And again, this kind of goes back to the research you need to do before you go into the interview or when you're going into the interview, so that you are armed with the information you need. Because once you're in there, you're in there. And then trying to create or navigate a support system and you don't feel supported is just a weight on you on top of learning a new job and being someplace that you don't really feel comfortable or feel like you belong.
I think this becomes more of a thing too now that we're remote. So many of us are remote, right? It's like through the interviewing process. No, like when I worked in call centers, we used to meet the team, right? That was like part of the process. So then I could see the makeup of the team and kind of better understand like who's on the floor, basically the sales floor, right? But
Hmm.
now with everything being remote, I mean, is there a way to like check out a company or like kind of understand like the makeup of the company and am I going to be the only one or though, like is there any way to do any of that kind of as you're going through the interview process?
LinkedIn is really going to be your best bet because most organizations have a company page, and the people that are employed there or previously employed there, you can pretty much see if you look at people. You can see who's connected to the organization that way. And then also on the organization's website, you should be able to see who's in leadership positions, 9 times out of 10, or even the board, and you can see that makeup. So you'll have an idea of the makeup of the organization from a leadership perspective on the website, and then from an organizational employee perspective on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's a great way to do it. And then Esther's saying, so when interviewing, how can we see the red flags of non-diverse companies and culture? And then what are some of the red flags in new companies and executives before you enter? So,
Um,
and I think for Esther, like Esther's located outside the country as well too. So there's like kind of a bias sometimes there too. That because she's not in the US, like she can't I don't know. There's like I don't know. Sometimes there's issues there too. So,
I would definitely say go to the or like the company's website is going to be your guidebook. Go like study, click on every link and go to every page and look at everything on there. That will tell you 90% of what you need to know about the organization. You'll be able to see if they have a DEI program, if they have DEI statements. You'll be able to see if they have community statements or community commitments. You'll be able to see that there. Um, all their any articles written about them, typically they have there. If they have their financial, like you'll be able to see 90% of the things you need to see on their website. And then you can dig deeper on LinkedIn and get to those nuanced, either people that still work there, people that used to work there. And then when you're going into the interview process, you can ask questions and you can ask them, hey, what is your DEI commitment to the organization? What are your program commitments? Do you have? I noticed on your website that it stated that you have ERGs, but I didn't see them listed. Who are they? Am I able to talk to any of them? Because that's one of the things I also tell organizations is that if you're committed to making sure you have a diverse talent pool and leadership, then your ERG leaders should be part of the interview process, especially for high level positions, because they are able to assess, who's bringing in for those people that are decision makers, and are they going to help move and progress the DEI strategy or even the ERG program forward. So you can ask those questions then. If you go through the interview process and no one that looks like you interviews you, you can ask them like, how many black employees do you have? Like I noticed I wasn't interviewed by any of them. Are there none on the team? You can ask that. That's not illegal to ask. So if they can't answer the question, then that might be a red flag because if they don't know, then that means that they have not talked to anyone that looks like you. So but definitely start with the company website. Like use it as your guidebook. Like I said, click every link, turn every page, and then go to LinkedIn for any other the remaining questions that you have to get a real true understanding about the culture that you will be going into, and then ask difficult questions. Don't go into an interview regardless of what you're interviewing for. Don't ask easy lowball questions. Ask difficult questions, because your job when you start is going to be difficult, because you're going to be learning. You want to make sure that you're in an atmosphere that is committed to your growth and development. So don't take it easy on them. Ask them difficult questions,
Yeah.
challenge them in the interview process, and I promise you that will make them respect you. I promise you.
And if they get pushback or it seems weird or they get a strange response or they can't answer, then it's probably not a place you want to work anyway. And I know, like, I know, I know these guys are our climbers are coming from and alumni from a perspective of like, dang, I just need a job. But I think you and I both know from our experience that just getting a job is really like Sharita said, if you're in, you're in. So now you're in it. Now what are you going to do? Now you don't have a supportive manager. Now you're the only one. And like you're on your own. It's an island of one anyway. So you're, you didn't win anything just because you got a role, right? Like,
Yes.
can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
So that really is a mindset thing, because I've been in situations where like I need to work because I have bills to pay, and my bills don't really care about how I value myself. My bills want to get paid. Like, let's just be
Let's be
honest about
real,
it.
right? Yeah.
But there needs to come to a point where you understand the value of who you are and the value that you can bring to an organization, and not accept anything less than that, and understand that you will get what you value. If you value finances, mediocre finances over your psychological safety, that's what you'll get. If you value
Ooh.
psychological safety and getting paid closer to the value of you, that is what you will get. Because when you show up as that, opportunities will come to you as such. And you will be able to say, I'm not settling for anything less than that, and you will get what you want. That's how it works out. And but you have to come from it from the mindset of, I deserve to work in a place where I don't feel hated every day. I deserve to work in a place where my manager supports me. I deserve to work in a psychologically safe work environment. And I deserve to get paid well to do so, because I have value. I can show up and I can bring value every single day with all of the work that I do, because that is who I am as a person. And organizations will see me and value that. And you have to own that and know that, like, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Even if you have to record yourself saying it and play it to yourself every day, all day, until you believe it, that's what you have to do. But don't undervalue who you are as a human being just to pay bills, because it will kill you. It will kill you emotionally, it will kill you psychologically, and it will kill you physically, because it will stress you the hell out.
Been there. I've won an EEOC case, you guys, and it yeah, and been in an awful environment, and I was suffering all right along with all my coworkers. Like everyone was in the environment and they weren't willing to do anything. And I probably took that role because I did need to get to work. And I was a single mom at the time, so I've been there too. But like Sharita said, your health, your wellness, and your life are not worth. I mean, yeah, we got to pay the bills, but yeah, we have to survive and we have to thrive. And y'all are amazing, and you deserve to be supported and um, in a role where they value what you're bringing, to the role. So yeah, really well said, Sharita. Really important, you guys. This is a biggie for you because I know some of you are right on the precipice. And you've been doing lots of interviews, and you've been talking to lots of people, and you haven't gotten a role yet. But you have to be in the right place. You have to be in the right environment. For sure. Any other questions? This is really, really good stuff. Thank you very much for
Absolutely.
yeah, bringing this to the forefront because some of this stays hidden, I think, in the in the remote and hybrid environment. So, um yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult now, but Just taking ownership of, your life, your values, what you want. When you're in the job search, and again, this goes back to a mindset shift. Bills need to be paid, yes. But you have to be honest with yourself and say, what am I willing to sacrifice to get paid what I want to get paid? And you have to be honest with yourself about that. If it's commute time, if I have to commute 2 hours to this job, but I get paid like $150,000 a year, I don't care. Or if it's I have to work 60 hours a week, but I get paid $200,000, I don't care. You have to be honest with what trade-offs you're willing to do in order to get what it is that you want. And then if there's certain things that you're not willing to or don't want to sacrifice, then be honest with yourself about that and stand on that, because you will find something that will give you that boundary. There are so many jobs out here, even with all of the layoffs, all the reorgs, there's still so many
Oh
jobs
yeah.
out here. You just have to find the one that will fit you the best. So write down what it is that you want, not what you don't want, but what it is that you want. And then ask yourself, what am I willing to trade or sacrifice for all the things that I want? And then when you start looking for jobs, understand that there are going to be trade offs. And it can be, well, for the first year, I'm working 60 hours, but after that, I could be working less, or I'll make a manager position or something like that. And I'm okay doing that. But just be honest with yourself about what it is that you want and what it is that you're willing to give up or take on to get it. Because you don't want to put yourself in the position where you're like, okay, I don't care. And then you get a I don't care position and it's just the worst decision you ever made in your life. Don't do that to yourself. You don't have to.
So, being in the space that you're in and doing what you do now, do you have some non-negotiables? Obviously you're the business owner now, so it's a little bit different. But do you have some non-negotiables, like this is what I like, absolutely I'm not going into an environment where this is happening, or that, like, do you recommend, as they're starting out and doing this first role and like kind of getting sometimes in that like panic mode, I got to just get a job, like setting up some non-negotiables for themselves, like this is absolutely, if this comes up, or I'm feeling like I kind of get an idea that maybe this is, there are some red flags there, like, do you
I
recommend
would
setting some of
say
that up?
getting into a new position, um, get a career coach. First thing you do after you pay your bills, find a career coach. Talk to your career coach about your career, what you want to do. Have them work with you or have them revamp your resume based off of your new position for the next position you want, regardless if it's in the organization or not. Don't wait until you feel like you're ready to make the next move to invest in yourself. Do it immediately, because you don't know what could happen or what could change. And you don't want to be sitting around and, let's say, a recruiter hits you up on LinkedIn and say, hey, I saw your profile. We have this new opportunity. We love to be great. Send me over your resume. And you're scrambling trying to do it, or you're trying to figure out how to interview again. Invest in a career coach so that you can set yourself up for the career that you want and not be dependent on anybody's organization to do so. Because you might be at an organization and it might be great, and then it don't work out after 6 months and you leave. Don't feel bad about that. There's no such thing as a pension and retirement anymore. Job hop. Keep hopping until you find what you like, and once you don't like it no more, find something else. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's just the way that the economy is going right now. No one is like, oh my God, you spent 6 months here. It's like, I spent 6 months there and then I found a better opportunity. So I left, because I'm focused on my career growth and I'm focused on giving the best that I can. And when I plateaued out of giving the best that I can for a position, I look to move on to something else challenging that I can continue to deliver the best. So just always keep investing in yourself, no matter what the organization says or does. Always invest in yourself. If it's like I said, getting a career coach, upskilling yourself, learning a new skill or a new trade, always do that. And don't ask for anybody's permission. Just do it on your own, because you are your best investment, and your ROI will always be 1,000%.
Can you restate that? That's important to understand, you
You are
guys.
your best investment, and your ROI will always be 1,000%. So always invest in you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, how do they look for a career coach? What questions do they want to ask if they're, in a role and want to find a career coach? What do you recommend?
There are different career coaches on LinkedIn, some of which I follow. There's one I can't her name is, I believe, is Maddie, and I can't remember her last name. But there's several on LinkedIn. I would say just do a search for like career coaches or career developers, something like that, and kind of just follow them to see what they post, see if there's a connection, what you like. But always look for people that are going to invest in you showing the best version of yourself and always setting you up for that next position, not based off of what you're doing right now, but based off of what you want to do. Look for that. Definitely always keep your resume updated. There's so many different ways to do that. You don't even have to pay people at this point. You can go and chat GPT and put in a job description. They'll put out a new resume for you. But definitely be active on LinkedIn. Post things, comments, good comments, not just like, oh, hi, like just actually engage with people because my last three opportunities were from LinkedIn. And it wasn't, I was looking, it was like, hey, we've seen you, we saw your profile, it was great. Make sure you have a great LinkedIn profile, really build it out. And really showcase who you are because that will really be what people see and recruiters will come after you. I mean, I was turning down recruiters left and right last year because the opportunity they were presenting me wasn't what I wanted, but I didn't have to look for them. They found me. So, yeah, definitely have a robust LinkedIn profile and start engaging with people, start following people, start posting things that are interesting or related to your interests. And don't just post an article, comment on what you took away from the article so people know you read it and not just put stuff on LinkedIn so that the algorithm knows you there.
Awesome. Anybody have any other questions? So, who should you be following on LinkedIn? If you're not following her, you should follow her. I'm not going to put the link because you guys know how to find it. You're the hunters, right? That's what we are, hunters. All
Yeah,
right.
I got a really good network, so I'm really good to follow. To be honest with you, I have a really good
She
network.
does. She does. And if you hear a red flag or something through the interview process and you guys are connected, you can message her and say, I just am wondering, like, is this a little off? Like, am I correct here, or am I just like blowing this out because I'm so new at this, right? She'll tell you, and she'll tell you straight up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, excellent. If you guys don't have any other questions, I want to give Sharitta the rest of her day back, but really, really appreciate you coming and sharing all this information. This is like really, really good stuff. So, again, thank you very much for coming and doing this. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it. And like Jamie said, find me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to connect.
There we
Thank you,
go.
Sharita.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sharita.
thank
Thank
you
you so
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Cheers your day.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you, Sharitta. That was
Excellent.
great.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Yeah, it was really nice. Bye.
All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Yeah.